She was just a lost girl placing a necklace on a stranger's grave. But when the bikers saw it, they froze. That necklace vanished the night their queen died. What she whispered next made half of them kneel, and the other half reach for their weapons. The silver crown necklace burned cold against Ava's palm as she climbed the hill toward the cemetery gates. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. Below her, the town of Ravenridge spread out like a scar across the desert, all rust and concrete and secrets that refused to die. She could hear them before she saw them. The rumble of motorcycles echoed off the canyon walls, a thunder that made the ground vibrate beneath her worn sneakers. Dozens of bikes. Maybe hundreds. All converging on the hilltop cemetery where her mother lay buried under a name Ava had only learned 3 weeks ago. Dahlia Storm. The woman who raised her, Aunt Claire, had whispered that name with her dying breath, pressing a locked box into Ava's hands. Inside, Ava found letters, DNA documents, and this necklace. The truth had shattered everything she thought she knew about her quiet life in Nevada. Now, at 16, she was walking into a gathering of the most dangerous people in 3 states. The cemetery gates stood open. Leather-clad bikers filled the pathways between headstones, their bikes parked in neat rows that stretched across the hillside. Ava pulled her hood lower and slipped through the crowd, keeping her head down. Nobody looked at her. Why would they? She was just another face in the sea of mourners. Except she wasn't mourning. She was claiming. The crowd thickened near the center of the cemetery. Ava pushed forward, her fingers wrapped tight around the necklace hidden in her jacket pocket. She could see the headstone now, black marble, taller than the others, carved with a howling wolf and words that made her throat close up. Dahlia Storm. Queen of the Storm. Gone but never broken. A man stood before the grave. Tall, broad-shouldered, with silver threading through his dark hair and a scar cutting across his left eyebrow. His leather vest bore patches that marked him as leader, Thunder Wolves MC, President. Even without the letters on his back, Ava would have known him by the way others kept their distance, like he carried an invisible force field of authority and danger. Ronan Storm. Her mother's husband. Her stepfather, though he didn't know it yet. 5 years, Ronan's voice cut through the murmur of the crowd. Deep. Raw. 5 years since they took her from us. 5 years since the Queen fell, and this town tore itself apart. The crowd shifted. Ava saw patches from different clubs, Thunder Wolves, Ravens, Desert Jackals, Iron Saints. Clubs that supposedly hated each other, all gathered here under an unspoken truce. Dahlia united us, Ronan continued. She made us believe we could be more than animals fighting over scraps. And someone murdered her for it. Ava's pulse roared in her ears. This was it. The moment that would either change everything or get her killed. She stepped forward. The crowd parted reluctantly. A woman with a shaved head and tattoos covering her arms glared at Ava. A younger man with VP on his vest, Talon, Ava remembered from the letters, narrowed his eyes. But Ava kept walking until she stood 3 feet from Ronan Storm. His gray eyes locked onto her. Up close, she could see the grief carved into the lines of his face, the rage simmering just beneath his controlled surface. Kid, this isn't the place for, he started. Ava pulled out the necklace. The silver caught the morning light, and the crowd gasped. The necklace was unmistakable, a crown made of interlocking silver thorns, hanging from a chain that had been forged specifically to fit only one bloodline. Ava had read about it in her mother's letters. The Storm Crown. The symbol that marked the true heir. It had vanished the night Dahlia died. Ronan went rigid. The color drained from his face. Around them, bikers surged forward, voices rising in shock and confusion. Where did you get that? Ronan's voice was barely a whisper, but it silenced everyone. Ava's hands shook as she knelt before the headstone. She placed the necklace carefully on the marble surface, right above her mother's name. Then she stood and met Ronan's gaze. "My name is Ava Rivers," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "And Dahlia Storm was my mother." The silence that followed was deafening. Then chaos erupted. "Liar," someone shouted. A man with a thick beard shoved forward. "Dahlia had no children." "It's a trick," another voice yelled. "The girl's a spy." But others were kneeling. An older woman with gray braids and tears streaming down her face dropped to one knee. Then another biker. And another. Ronan stood frozen, staring at Ava like she was a ghost. Talon, the VP, pushed through the crowd. His face was twisted with fury. "This is bullshit. That necklace was stolen. She's playing us." "I have proof," Ava said, her voice steadier than she felt. She pulled folded papers from her inner pocket. DNA documents. Letters. Everything. Ronan snatched the papers from her hand. His eyes scanned the documents, and with each line he read, his expression shifted, from disbelief to shock to something that looked almost like hope. "This is impossible," he breathed. "Dahlia told me. She said she couldn't." "She lied," Ava said softly. "To protect me. She hid me with her sister. Kept me secret so your enemies couldn't use me against her." The tattooed woman stepped forward, her hand on the knife at her belt. "If you're really Dahlia's daughter, prove it. Tell us something only she would know." Ava's mind raced through the letters she'd memorized. Then she remembered one detail, something personal, something her mother had written about the man she loved. She looked at Ronan. "She called you her silent storm because you never spoke when you were angry. You just went quiet. And that terrified people more than any threat." Ronan's knees nearly buckled. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. "It's true." But before anyone could respond, a sound shattered the moment. A phone rang. Talon answered it, his face going pale. He lowered the phone slowly and looked at Ava with pure hatred in his eyes. "We have a problem," he said. "Someone just called in a threat to the clubhouse. They said, the crown dies tonight." Ava's blood turned to ice. Someone knew she was here. Someone knew what she was claiming. And they were already coming for her. The ride to the Thunder Wolves compound felt like being swallowed by a dust storm. Ava sat behind Ronan on his bike, her arms wrapped around his waist, watching the desert blur past at terrifying speed. Behind them, 20 motorcycles followed in tight formation, a moving fortress of leather and steel. Her mind spun. Someone wanted her dead. Already. She'd been Dahlia Storm's daughter for less than an hour, and people were trying to kill her. The compound appeared like a mirage in the desert, a sprawling collection of buildings surrounded by high fences topped with barbed wire. Guard towers stood at each corner. As they roared through the gates, Ava saw men with rifles taking positions along the perimeter. They weren't taking the threat lightly. Ronan killed the engine and dismounted. Inside. Now. The clubhouse was darker than Ava expected, all exposed brick and dim lights. Motorcycle parts hung on walls like trophies. The air smelled of motor oil and whiskey. Bikers filled the space, their voices a low rumble of argument and disbelief. Ronan led her to a back room, his office. The door slammed shut, muffling the noise outside. He pointed to a chair. "Sit." Ava sat. Her legs felt like water. Ronan paced like a caged animal. "Explain. Everything. Start from the beginning, and don't leave anything out." So she did. She told him about Aunt Claire, how Ava had always believed she was her real mother. About the quiet life in a small Nevada town, the way Claire had homeschooled her, kept her isolated. About Claire's sudden illness 3 weeks ago, and her deathbed confession. "She gave me this," Ava said, pulling out a worn leather journal from her backpack. My mother's journal. She wrote everything. Ronan took it with trembling hands. He flipped through pages, his eyes scanning Dahlia's familiar handwriting. Ava watched his face crumble. She was pregnant, he whispered. That last year, before. I thought she was pulling away from me. Getting distant. But she was protecting, his voice broke. You, Ava finished softly. She was protecting both of us. Ronan read aloud from one entry, the crown cannot fall into enemy hands. If they know I have an heir, they'll never stop hunting her. Better she lives unknown than dies a target. Better Ronan hates me for my distance than buries our daughter. Silence filled the room. She loved you, Ava said. Every page proves it. She just loved me more. Ronan's fist slammed into the desk. She should have told me. I could have protected you both. Could you? Ava challenged. Someone murdered her, Ronan. Someone close. Someone who knew her routines, her security. The journal says she suspected betrayal from inside the club. If she'd told you about me, how long before the traitor found out? The door burst open. Talon strode in, followed by the tattooed woman, her vest read Sergeant at Arms, Mara, and several other high-ranking members. We need to talk about this, Talon said, his voice hard. The girl shows up out of nowhere with a convenient story, and suddenly we're under threat? That's not coincidence. Watch your mouth, Ronan growled. No, he's right, Mara said, surprising everyone. She turned to Ava. I loved Dahlia like a sister. I want to believe you. But that necklace disappeared 5 years ago. How do we know you didn't just buy it off some fence? Ava stood. The DNA can be faked, Talon interrupted. Papers can be forged. Then test me yourself. Ava shot back. Take my blood. Compare it to Dahlia's medical records. Do whatever you need to do. But I'm telling the truth. An older man with gray hair stepped forward. There's one test that can't be faked, he looked at Ronan. The scar. Ronan went very still. Phoenix. If she's Dahlia's daughter, she'll have the mark, Phoenix insisted. The Storm bloodline has carried it for 4 generations. Ava's heart raced. What mark? A birthmark, Ronan said quietly. Shaped like a crescent moon. Dahlia had it on her left shoulder blade. Her mother had it. Her grandmother. If you're really her daughter. Ava didn't hesitate. She turned around and lifted her shirt, exposing her left shoulder. The room went dead silent. There, on her shoulder blade, was a crescent-shaped birthmark, dark against her pale skin, exactly as they'd described. Mara's knife clattered to the floor. Phoenix dropped to one knee. One by one, the bikers in the room knelt. All except Talon. His face had gone white, his jaw clenched so tight Ava could see the muscles jumping. She's real, Phoenix said, his voice thick with emotion. The heir lives. Ronan's hand touched Ava's shoulder gently. When she turned, she saw tears streaming down his scarred face. Welcome home, he whispered. My daughter. But Talon was already backing toward the door, his phone in his hand. Ava saw his thumb moving rapidly across the screen. Texting someone. Stop him. Ava shouted. Ronan spun, but Talon was gone, the door slamming behind him. And somewhere in the distance, Ava heard an engine roar to life. The betrayal had already begun. The explosion came at 2 a.m. Ava jerked awake as the entire building shook. Glass shattered somewhere nearby. Alarms screamed. She rolled out of the bed in the small room they'd given her, her heart hammering against her ribs. The door burst open. Ronan stood there, gun in hand. Stay behind me. They ran through corridors filled with smoke. Bikers rushed past them, some bleeding, all armed. Through a broken window, Ava saw flames consuming a car in the parking lot, twisted metal and fire reaching toward the night sky. Was anyone in it? Ava gasped. That was Talon's car, Mara said, appearing beside them with soot streaking her face. But he's not in it. He left on his bike 2 hours ago. Hasn't come back. They made it outside. The heat from the burning vehicle hit Ava's face like a physical blow. Bikers formed a perimeter, weapons ready, scanning the darkness beyond the fence. But whoever had planted the bomb was already gone. Phoenix approached, holding something. Boss. You need to see this. He handed Ronan a piece of paper, edges scorched. Ronan's face went dark as he read it. Without a word, he passed it to Ava. The message was written in blood-red ink, the letters crude and threatening. The crown dies tonight. Below it, someone had drawn a crude sketch, a silver crown with a knife through it. Ava's hands started shaking. She couldn't stop them. The paper fluttered to the ground as her vision tunneled. The world tilted sideways. Ava. Ronan caught her before she hit the concrete. Breathe. Look at me. Breathe. But she couldn't. Her chest felt like it was caving in. Black spots danced across her vision. She was dying. She had to be dying. Her lungs wouldn't work. Her heart was going to explode. It's a panic attack, Mara said, kneeling beside them. Her voice was surprisingly gentle. Ava, listen to my voice. You're safe. Count with me. 1, 2, 3 inch. Slowly, painfully, Ava's breathing steadied. The world came back into focus. She was sitting on the ground, Ronan's arm around her shoulders, surrounded by bikers who looked at her with a mixture of concern and doubt. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry, I just... Don't apologize, Ronan said firmly. Someone just tried to kill you. You're allowed to be scared. Dahlia's daughter wouldn't be scared, someone muttered. Ava couldn't see who. Dahlia's daughter is 16 years old, Ronan snapped, his voice like thunder. And she's braver than any of you, standing here after that. Anyone has a problem with it, the door's right there. No one moved. Phoenix pulled Ronan aside. Ava watched them talk in low, urgent voices. She caught fragments, insider job. Only 5 people knew she was staying in that wing. Talon's gone dark. The pieces clicked together in Ava's mind with horrible clarity. She stood on shaky legs and walked over to them. My mother was killed by someone in the biker world. That's what the journal said. Not outsiders. One of you. The bikers around them shifted uncomfortably. One of us, Ronan confirmed, his voice heavy. We've suspected it for years. The assassination was too clean. They knew exactly where Dahlia would be, exactly when her security would be weakest. But we could never prove who. And now they know about me, Ava said. Which means they'll try again, Mara finished. And they won't stop until you're dead. The crown dies with you, and whoever wanted Dahlia gone gets what they wanted, no heir, no storm bloodline, no one to unite the clubs. Ava's mind raced through everything she'd read in her mother's journal. The alliances Dahlia had built. The peace she'd brokered. The enemies she'd made. The journal mentioned a name, Ava said suddenly. Someone my mother was investigating. Victor. Victor something. Ronan and Phoenix exchanged sharp looks. Victor Drajan, Phoenix said. Billionaire. Owns half of Ravenridge, casinos, real estate, the racing circuits. And he's been trying to control the biker clubs for a decade. Dahlia was fighting him, Ronan added. She refused to let the clubs work for him, refused to let him turn us into his private army. 2 weeks before she died, she told me she had proof he was manipulating club wars to weaken us. She was going to expose him. And then she died, Ava said. And then she died, Ronan echoed. Ava looked at the burning car, at the threatening message lying in the dirt, at the armed bikers surrounding her. For the first time since placing that necklace on her mother's grave, she understood the weight of what she'd claimed. This wasn't just about finding her mother's killer. This was war. I need to learn to fight, Ava said, her voice steadier now. To ride. To shoot. Everything. If I'm going to survive this, I can't be helpless. Ronan studied her face for a long moment. Then he nodded. Training starts at dawn, he said. Welcome to hell, daughter. The neutral bar sat on the border between territories, a weathered building where rival clubs could meet without bloodshed. The neon sign flickered, Crossroads. Inside, an unspoken truce kept weapons holstered and fists unclenched. Ava walked in flanked by Ronan and Mara. Every head turned. Conversations died mid-sentence. At a corner booth sat a woman who commanded attention without trying. She had dark skin, close-cropped hair, and eyes that missed nothing. Her leather vest was marked with a raven in flight, the symbol of the Ravens MC. Other club members surrounded her, forming a wall of loyalty. Sable Reeves. Dahlia's closest friend, according to the journal. Well, Sable said, setting down her whiskey. The ghost daughter appears. Ronan's hand moved to Ava's back, a protective gesture. She's real, Sable. We've verified everything. Oh, I believe she's Dahlia's kid, Sable replied. What I don't believe is that she can fill her mother's boots, her gaze fixed on Ava. You're what, 15? 16? 16, Ava said, forcing herself not to look away. Dahlia was 28 when she united the clubs. She'd been riding since she was 6, fighting since she was 8. She earned every scar, every ounce of respect. Sable leaned forward. What have you earned, little girl? The word stung, but Ava understood. These people didn't respect bloodlines, they respected strength. Nothing yet, Ava admitted. But I'm here to change that. A flicker of something, approval, maybe, crossed Sable's face. She gestured to the empty seats. Sit. We need to talk about the real enemy. They sat. Sable poured whiskey into glasses, sliding one to Ava. Ronan started to object, but Sable cut him off. If she's old enough to claim the crown, she's old enough for whiskey. Ava took a sip. It burned down her throat, making her eyes water. She didn't cough. Victor Drajan, Sable said, getting straight to business. That's who killed Dahlia. Not directly, he's too smart for that. But he orchestrated it. How do you know? Ava asked. Because Dahlia told me, 2 days before she died. Sable's voice went quiet. She came to me, scared, and Dahlia was never scared. She said Drajan had infiltrated the clubs. He was paying off members, turning us against each other. The club wars weren't accidents. They were manufactured. Ronan's fist clenched on the table. Why didn't you tell me? Because Dahlia made me promise not to. She didn't know who to trust anymore. Sable met his eyes. Not even you, Ronan. She was afraid whoever she told would become the next target. The betrayal in Ronan's expression was painful to watch. Drajan profits from chaos, Sable continued. When clubs fight, they need money, for weapons, for bribes, for territory disputes. Drajan provides that money through his racing circuits and casinos. But he charges interest. Eventually, the clubs owe him so much they become his puppets. That's why my mother was creating alliances, Ava said, pieces falling into place. She was trying to unite everyone so they'd be strong enough to refuse him. Exactly. And it was working. Sable pulled out her phone, showing them photos. These are Dražen's legitimate businesses. But underneath, he runs illegal racing circuits where the stakes are life and death. He forces bikers to compete, takes bets, and when someone dies, he profits from both sides. Ava's stomach turned. After Dahlia died, everything fell apart, Sable said. The peace she built lasted maybe 6 months. Then the desert jackals went to war with the Iron Saints. The Thunder Wolves barely held together. The Ravens stayed neutral, but we were isolated. And Dražen got exactly what he wanted, Mara said bitterly. Until now, Sable looked at Ava. You showing up changes everything. If you're truly Dahlia's heir, you could reunite the clubs. Finish what she started. If she survives, a male voice said. A man approached their table, tall, bald, with a scar running from his temple to his jaw. His vest marked him as president of the Desert Jackals. Kane, Ronan said, tension in his voice. Ronan, Kane pulled up a chair uninvited. Heard there's a new storm in town. Wanted to see for myself. He studied Ava like she was a specimen under glass. She looks soft. She's tougher than she looks, Ronan said. Is she? Kane smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Because word on the street is there's a price on her head. $50,000 to whoever brings Dražen proof she's dead. Ava's blood ran cold. When did this happen? Mara demanded. 2 hours ago. The word spreading fast, Kane's gaze never left Ava. Half the bikers in 3 states will be hunting you by sunrise. Dražen's made you the most valuable target in the West. Sable cursed under her breath. So here's my question, Kane continued. Why should the desert jackals protect you? What's in it for us? Ava's mind raced. This was a test. Everything was a test. Freedom, she said finally. My mother wanted the clubs to be independent. Not Dražen's dogs. If you help me take him down, you'll never owe anyone anything again. Kane laughed. Big promises from a little girl. Not promises. Facts. Ava leaned forward. I have my mother's evidence. Names, numbers, recordings. Everything she gathered before she died. Help me survive long enough to use it, and we destroy Dražen together. Kane's smile faded. He looked at Sable, then Ronan. She's bluffing. I'm not, Ava said. The bar went silent. Finally, Kane stood. Prove you're worth protecting. Survive the next week. Then we'll talk. He walked out, his crew following. Sable raised her glass. Well, kid. You've got 1 week to become unkillable. Better start training. Dawn broke over the desert with unforgiving heat. Ava stood in the compound's training yard, every muscle in her body screaming from the previous day's work. Bruises covered her arms. Her knuckles were split and bleeding. Again, Mara commanded. Ava threw another punch at the heavy bag. Her form was better now, feet planted, rotation from the hips, power driving through her fist. The bag swung hard. Better. But better won't save you when someone's got a knife to your throat. Mara circled her like a predator. What did Dahlia write in that journal? About strength? Ava's arms dropped. She recited from memory, strength isn't power. Strength is protecting what others can't. Then protect yourself first. Mara moved like lightning, sweeping Ava's legs. Ava hit the dirt hard, the air knocked from her lungs. Standing over her, Mara offered no hand up. Dead. That's 5 times today. You're getting sloppy. Ava pushed herself up, spitting dust. I'm tired. You think whoever's hunting you cares that you're tired? Mara's voice was sharp. There's a $50,000 bounty on your head. Every desperate biker, every hired gun, every gang in 3 states wants you dead. Tired doesn't matter. Survival matters. Ava wiped blood from her lip and raised her fists again. They trained until noon. Then Phoenix took over. The motorcycle waiting in the garage was smaller than the others, a Yamaha R6, painted matte black. Phoenix patted the seat. This was supposed to be Dahlia's gift to you. She bought it the year you were born. Never sold it. Ava's throat tightened. She ran her fingers over the handlebars. Your mother could outride anyone, Phoenix said. Could take a turn at 80 miles per hour that would kill most riders. That skill kept her alive more times than I can count. He handed her a helmet. Time to learn. The first hour was humiliating. Ava stalled the engine 6 times. Nearly dropped the bike twice. Phoenix remained patient, but she could see the concern in his eyes. By the 3rd hour, something clicked. The bike stopped feeling like a machine and started feeling like an extension of her body. The roar of the engine became familiar. The balance became natural. There it is, Phoenix said, a rare smile crossing his weathered face. There's the storm blood. They moved to the desert trails. Open space where Ava could push her limits. The wind whipped past her helmet. Sand sprayed from her tires. For the first time since arriving in Ravenridge, she felt something other than fear. She felt free. That evening, Ronan found her in the library, a small room filled with Dahlia's belongings. Ava was reading the journal again, trying to absorb every lesson her mother had written. There's something I need to show you, Ronan said. He led her to a locked garage at the compound's edge. Inside, covered by a tarp, sat a motorcycle that made Ava's breath catch. It was white, pure, gleaming white, with silver accents that caught the light like stars. Custom-built, clearly expensive, and absolutely beautiful. The White Queen, Ronan said quietly. Dahlia's personal bike. She was riding it the night she died. We restored it, but no one's touched it since. Ava approached slowly, reverently. On the tank, she noticed something, a small compartment she hadn't seen before. What's this? Ronan opened it. Inside was an envelope with Ava's name written in Dahlia's handwriting. With trembling hands, Ava opened it. The letter inside was dated 2 weeks before Dahlia's death. My dearest Ava, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I couldn't watch you grow up. I'm sorry I couldn't be the mother you deserved. But know this, every day I spent away from you was agony. Every decision I made was to keep you safe. The crown you now carry is not just jewelry. It's a promise. A promise to protect those who cannot protect themselves. A promise to stand against those who use power to hurt others. I know you're scared. I would be too. But you have something I never had, you have the chance to grow into this role. You don't have to be me. You just have to be the best version of yourself. Remember, leadership isn't about being the strongest or the meanest. It's about being the one who shows up when everyone else runs away. I love you, my daughter. I always have. I always will. Mom. Tears streamed down Ava's face. Ronan's arm wrapped around her shoulders as she sobbed. The next morning, Ava faced her biggest test yet. Mara had arranged a sparring match with Garrett, a Thunder Wolves member who'd been openly skeptical of Ava. He was twice her size, scarred from years of street fights. The other bikers formed a circle around them. Betting money changed hands. Most bet against her. Ready to quit yet, princess? Garrett sneered. Ava thought of her mother's words. Thought of every bruise, every fall, every moment she'd wanted to give up but hadn't. Try me, she said. They fought. Garrett was stronger, more experienced. But Ava was faster, more desperate. She used his size against him, staying out of reach, striking when he overextended, moving constantly. When he finally grabbed her, she remembered Mara's lessons. She twisted, drove her elbow into his ribs, swept his legs. He went down hard. The crowd erupted. Garrett stared up at her in shock. Then, slowly, he smiled. Not bad, Storm. Not bad at all. He extended his hand. Ava helped him up. Around them, the doubters started to believe. The war room fell silent as Phoenix spread the documents across the table. Financial records, phone logs, encrypted messages, all decoded over the past 3 days. Ava stood beside Ronan, her stomach churning as the pieces formed a devastating picture. These transfers, Phoenix said, pointing to highlighted numbers. $20,000. Every month for 5 years. Always on the 15th. Always from an offshore account registered to one of Drajan's shell companies. Going where? Mara asked, though her face suggested she already knew. Phoenix pulled up a bank statement. To an account owned by Talon. The room erupted. Bikers shouted over each other. Someone threw a chair. Ava watched Ronan's face drain of color, his jaw working as he processed the betrayal. That's not all, Phoenix continued grimly. Cell tower records put Talon's phone within 200 yards of Dahlia's location the night she was killed. He made 3 calls to an unknown number in the hour before the assassination. That number? Traced back to a burner phone that pinged near Drajan's estate. Ronan's fist slammed into the table so hard it cracked. He was my brother. I trusted him with everything. He sold us, Mara said, her voice venomous. He sold Dahlia. He's been Drajan's inside man this entire time. Ava stared at the evidence, her mind racing back through every interaction with Talon. The way he'd challenged her at the cemetery. His fury when she'd shown the birthmark. How quickly he'd disappeared after texting someone. He knew I was coming, Ava said suddenly. At the cemetery. He was already planning to report back to Drajan. That's why the bomb happened so fast. And now he's gone, Phoenix added. Vanished 2 days ago. No phone signals, no sightings. He's in the wind. Not for long, Ronan growled. I want every contact, every informant, every person who owes us a favor looking for him. I want. The door burst open. A young prospect stumbled in, breathing hard. Boss. We've got a situation. Multiple bikes approaching from the east. At least 30 riders. They're not showing colors. Everyone moved at once. Ava followed Ronan to the compound's eastern wall. Through binoculars, she could see the approaching convoy, motorcycles riding in formation, riders wearing matching black leather but no club patches. Mercenaries, Mara spat. Drajan's sending hired guns now. They're not attacking, Phoenix observed. They're stopping? The convoy halted 100 yards from the gate. One rider dismounted and walked forward, hands raised in a non-threatening gesture. Even from a distance, Ava could see the phone in his hand. Ronan's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered on speaker. Ronan Storm, a smooth, cultured voice said. I believe we need to talk. Drajan, Ronan said, his voice deadly calm. Indeed. I see you've discovered my arrangement with Mr. Talon. Unfortunate. He was quite useful. Where is he? Safe. For now. As I said, we need to talk. I'm sending someone to negotiate terms. I don't negotiate with murderers. Don't you? Drajan's laugh was cold. You've killed plenty, Ronan. As did your dear departed wife. Let's not pretend to moral high ground here. The mercenary at the gate held up a tablet. On its screen, a video began playing. Ava's blood turned to ice. The video showed Talon, bound to a chair in a concrete room. His face was bruised, one eye swollen shut. But he was alive. "Here's my offer," Dražen continued. "The girl, Ava, is it, comes to me willingly. I promise a quick death, nothing painful. In exchange, Mr. Talon here goes free, and I call off the bounty. Your clubs can go back to their petty squabbles, and I'll find other ways to maintain order." "Go to hell," Ava said before Ronan could respond. "Ah, the crown princess speaks. How brave!" Dražen's tone shifted, became almost paternal. "Child, do you understand what you're caught up in? Your mother thought she could change the world. Look where it got her. You're 16 years old. You should be worried about homework and boys, not gang wars and assassination attempts." "My mother died fighting you," Ava said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I'm not going to insult her memory by surrendering." "Then you're a fool. I have resources you can't imagine. Money, connections, an army of people who'll do anything I ask." "What do you have? A grieving stepfather and a motorcycle you barely know how to ride?" "She has us," Mara said loudly. Other voices joined in. Phoenix. Garrett. Dozens of Thunder Wolves members who'd gathered to listen. "She has us," they repeated. Dražen sighed. "Loyalty. How quaint. Very well. You have 24 hours to reconsider. After that, I stop playing nice. The bounty doubles to 100,000. And Mr. Talon? He dies. Slowly." The call ended. The video kept playing. Talon looked directly at the camera. His mouth moved, forming words, "I'm sorry." Then the screen went black. Ronan turned to his assembled crew. "Battle stations. Dražen's coming, and he's bringing war." But Ava was staring at the now dark tablet, her mind working through what she'd seen. Something about Talon's message. The way his eyes had shifted left. The slight nod of his head. He wasn't just apologizing. He was giving them information. "Wait," Ava said. "Play that video again." "There," Ava said, freezing the video frame. "His eyes. He's looking at something specific." Phoenix enhanced the image. Behind Talon, barely visible in the concrete wall's reflection, were markings, faded paint and a number, B7. "That's a hangar designation," Mara said, leaning closer. "Old military style." Ronan grabbed a map of Ravenridge and surrounding areas. His finger traced abandoned facilities. "The airstrip. 20 miles east. Decommissioned 10 years ago. It has numbered hangars." "It's a trap," Phoenix warned. "Of course it's a trap," Ava said. "But Talon's telling us where. That gives us the advantage." Ronan looked at her. "You're not going." "Yes, I am." Ava's voice left no room for argument. "Dražen wants me. He'll expect me to hide. If I show up, he'll focus on me instead of your people. And I can ride now. I can fight. I'm not useless anymore. You're 16. My mother was uniting gangs by my age." Ava's hands clenched into fists. "I'm done being protected. This is my fight now. I won't run." The room fell silent. Finally, Ronan nodded. "Then you ride the White Queen. And you stay in formation. Understand?" 30 minutes later, Ava sat astride her mother's motorcycle. The white paint gleamed under the compound's lights. Around her, 50 Thunder Wolves prepared for war. Sable arrived with 20 ravens. Even Kane showed up with 15 desert jackals. "Figured you could use the help," Kane said, though he wouldn't meet Ava's eyes. "Besides, Dražen's been a problem for all of us." The convoy rolled out at midnight. Ava rode beside Ronan, the engines roared drowning out her fear. Mara flanked her other side, and Phoenix took rear guard. They were a river of steel and leather cutting through the desert darkness. The airstrip appeared like a graveyard, cracked runways, rusted fencing, hangars with peeling paint. Too quiet. Too still. Spread out, Ronan commanded through the radio. Assume hostile contact. They dismounted a quarter-mile out, approaching on foot. Ava's heart hammered. Her hand rested on the gun Mara had given her, a Glock 19, loaded and ready. Hangar B-7 stood at the far end. Its doors were open, spilling yellow light into the darkness. Inside, Talon hung suspended by chains, barely conscious. Blood dripped from his wounds onto the concrete floor. Around him stood 20 armed mercenaries in tactical gear. And in the center, impeccably dressed in a three-piece suit, stood Victor Drajan. He was younger than Ava expected, maybe 45, with silver hair and the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers. He smiled when he saw them. Right on time. I do appreciate punctuality. Let him go, Ronan demanded. Why would I do that? He's the bait, and you all swallowed it beautifully, Drajan gestured, and mercenaries appeared from surrounding hangars. Dozens of them. Maybe 100. The bikers were surrounded. Did you really think I'd make this easy? Drajan continued. That I just have one location? Please. I have men positioned at every exit. Snipers on the control tower. You came here to save a traitor, and now you'll die for it. Maybe, Ava said, stepping forward. Or maybe you made a mistake. Drajan's eyes fixed on her. The crown princess. Finally. Do you have any idea how much trouble you've caused me? If you'd just stayed hidden, stayed ignorant, none of this would be necessary. My mother exposed you, Ava said. She had evidence of everything, the race fixing, the club manipulation, the murders. I have it now. All of it. Had, Drajan corrected. Past tense. I've already scrubbed my digital footprint. Any evidence Dahlia collected is worthless now. Except for the recordings, Ava said. Drajan's smile faltered. My mother wore a wire. Every meeting with you, every threatening phone call, every confession you made thinking you were safe, she recorded it all. And before she died, she sent copies to multiple locations. Ava pulled out her phone, holding it up. Including cloud storage that I control now. You're bluffing. Ava pressed play. Drajan's voice filled the hangar. Clubs need to kill each other. That's how we maintain control. Start a war between the Thunder Wolves and the Ravens. Make it bloody. Stop. Drajan's composure cracked. Stop it. The FBI would love these recordings, Ava said. So would every biker club in the country. So would the media. One click, and your empire burns. Then why haven't you sent them? Because I wanted you to know it was me who destroyed you. Me, the daughter of the woman you murdered. Drajan's face twisted with rage. Kill them all. The hangar erupted. Gunfire. Explosions. Bikers and mercenaries colliding in brutal combat. Ava dove behind cover as bullets tore through the air. Beside her, Mara returned fire with deadly precision. Get to Talon. Ronan shouted. Ava ran. Ducking, weaving, the White Queen's keys clutched in her hand. She reached Talon and shot the chains. He collapsed into her arms. I'm sorry, he gasped. He threatened my family. My daughter. I know, Ava said. We'll talk later. Can you walk? Try and stop me. Together, they fought toward the exit. Behind them, Drajan fled to a waiting helicopter. But Ronan was faster. He tackled Drajan onto the tarmac, fists flying. This is for Dahlia, Ronan growled, pulling out Ava's phone. And this, he pressed send, uploading every recording to the FBI, media outlets, and biker networks across the country. Is for everyone you hurt. Sirens wailed in the distance. The mercenaries scattered. The battle was over. Dražen lay on the ground, broken and beaten, his empire crumbling around him. Ava stood over him. You lose. 5 days later, Ava stood at her mother's grave once more. The cemetery was crowded, more crowded than the first time she'd come. Hundreds of bikers filled the hillside, their motorcycles stretching down the winding road like a metal river. But this time, there was no tension. No weapons drawn. No suspicion in their eyes. The silver crown necklace hung around Ava's neck, catching the late afternoon sun. It felt lighter now. Or maybe she'd just grown stronger. Ronan stood beside her, his hand resting on her shoulder. He'd barely left her side since the airstrip battle. The DNA test had come back, confirmed what they both already knew. She was his stepdaughter. And somehow, that made the grief easier to bear. They were family, bound by loss and love for the same woman. She'd be proud of you, Ronan said quietly. Ava touched the headstone. I hope so. The past 5 days had been chaos. The FBI had raided Dražen's properties, armed with Dalia's recordings. News outlets ran the story non-stop, billionaire crime lord exposed, decades of corruption unraveling. Dražen's assets were frozen. His associates arrested. The man who'd seemed untouchable was now facing 70 years in federal prison. The biker clubs had held emergency meetings. Old rivalries were set aside. New alliances formed. The peace Dalia had dreamed of was finally within reach. And at the center of it all stood Ava, the lost girl who'd placed a necklace on a grave and changed everything. Can I have everyone's attention? Sable's voice carried across the cemetery. The crowd quieted. Sable stood on a raised section of the hillside, commanding respect without effort. Beside her stood Kane and representatives from 8 other clubs. 5 years ago, we lost our queen, Sable began. Dalia Storm united us when we were tearing ourselves apart. She showed us that strength comes from standing together, not fighting each other. When she died, we forgot that lesson. We went back to the old ways, violence, territory wars, destroying ourselves from the inside. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Then her daughter came home, Sable continued, looking at Ava. A 16-year-old girl who could have stayed hidden. Who could have lived a normal life far from this world. But she didn't. She stood up. She fought. She exposed the real enemy who'd been manipulating us for years. Ava felt her cheeks burn as hundreds of eyes turned to her. Dalia's blood runs in her veins, Sable said. But more than that, Dalia's spirit lives in her heart. She's proven herself in combat, in courage, and in character. And so, the Ravens MC formally recognizes Ava Storm as the rightful heir. Sable knelt. One by one, the other club leaders knelt. Kane. Phoenix. Even the representatives from clubs Ava had never met. Then the entire crowd, hundreds of bikers, dropped to one knee. The silence was profound. Ronan stepped forward, carrying something wrapped in worn leather. He unfolded it carefully, a jacket. Black leather, marked with the Thunder Wolf symbol, but modified. On the back, someone had embroidered a silver crown over a howling wolf. This was your mother's, Ronan said, his voice thick with emotion. She wore it when she united the clubs. When she rode to every territory, making peace. When she became queen, he held it out. Now it's yours. Ava's hands trembled as she took it. The leather was soft, broken in by years of wear. It smelled faintly of motor oil and desert wind. She slipped it on. It fit perfectly. The crowd erupted. Engines roared to life, a thunderous salute that echoed off the canyon walls. The sound was deafening, beautiful, terrifying. Ava turned to face them all. These hardened bikers, these warriors and survivors, all looking to her. The weight of their expectations should have crushed her. Instead, it made her stand taller. "I'm not my mother," Ava called out, her voice carrying. "I'll never be Dahlia Storm. She was a legend. I'm just me. 16 years old. Still learning. Still making mistakes." The crowd listened intently. "But I promise you this," Ava continued, thinking of her mother's letter. "I won't rule with fear. I won't rule with power. I'll rule the way she taught me, by protecting those who can't protect themselves. By standing up when everyone else runs. By being the one who shows up." She paused, looking at the faces before her. Ronan, tears streaming down his scarred face. Mara, tough as nails but smiling. Sable, nodding with approval. Even Talon, recovering in the back, his daughter safe beside him. "Together," Ava said firmly. "We do this together. No more wars between clubs. No more manipulation. We stand as one, or we don't stand at all." The roar of approval shook the ground. As the sun set over Ravenridge, painting the desert gold and crimson, Ava placed her hand on her mother's headstone one last time. "I found you, Mom," she whispered. "And I finished what you started." Behind her, the engines continued their tribute. The sound of unity. The sound of change. The sound of a new queen rising. Ava Storm turned from the grave and walked toward the White Queen, her mother's jacket on her shoulders, the crown necklace gleaming against her chest. She mounted the motorcycle, feeling its power beneath her. She'd come to this cemetery a lost girl. She was leaving as something else entirely. A leader. A daughter. A storm. And the chaos she'd unleashed was only the beginning.